I know this was supposed to be the test run video, but I'm having all kinds of problems like normal, and we're not ready. So the first problem, and you may have had this problem before. You know, these Mopar reproduction dipsticks don't fit the hole, and they're never going to. This is 3/8 diameter tubing, 0.375, and the hole is 0.366. So it's never going to go. So I'll have to end up, yes, you could drill that to 375 and this would fit, but I'm not willing to drill the block. So you're stuck with, I can't turn it down on a lathe, you can't chuck it up. You're stuck with going to a bench grinder or a belt sander and grinding it down till you can get it to fit. I had to, these are TTI headers that I bought for the test stand, and they said something about a Mylodon dipstick may work. I bought a Mylodon and a Locar and the Mopar reproduction, and this tube comes down here pretty close, and the Mylodon and the Locar just wouldn't make the turn in time. So I had to go to the Mopar. And you always have to, anytime you have headers, you're going to have to bend this up somehow and make it go work somewhere, whatever works with your headers. It looked like this one was going to work if I'd give it a little more bend here. And so I got the tubing bender and I gave it a little more bend. Well, you know what happened then. The dipstick wouldn't go in. I tried it 150 times, but it just absolutely positively will not go. So I was kind of at a loss on this dipstick project. As a last resort, I went and got another Mopar dipstick left over from the last time I tried to do this and destroyed the tube, which you're going to do that, trying to bend this thing with that tubing bender, and you're going to destroy some of these. So I had this left over, and for some reason it works absolutely perfect, and it looks identical to the other one. So the other one, I cut the tip off, tried to get that curly Q off the end, and it still won't work. Very strange. By the way, those two dipsticks, one is at the same length as on ad, and the other one is on full, so there's a quart difference between them, and they're both supposed to be Hemi reproduction dipsticks. So just don't trust the dipstick or anything else. But anyway, I think I'll have to do some more test fitting on this, and I'm gonna have to grind this down like we always have to do, and it's gonna be terrible, but somehow I think I'm gonna get there. But the real problem that I wanted to talk about is the headers. So I put the TTI headers on here, and I like TTIs more than anybody else's. And they usually work pretty good, and they fit on there really perfect. The gasket looked like it was compressed, and everything was great. Well, then I thought, well, boy, it sure is close to that block. Maybe I should see if it's touching. So I stuck up 1/1000 feeler gauge behind it, and sure enough, it was touching. Well, I thought, well, I'm not going to have to grind much off of that. I mean, it's already got the gasket compressed, so, you know, we're talking nothing here. So I took off the header, ground it down, put the header back on, still touching. So I took it back off, put the header back on, and that was touching up here. So I took it off, ground it, put the header back on, it's touching. So after 21 times, I now have clearance. So what's the problem? Well, I can't fault TTI on this. This block was made after TTI designed that header. And Energy Manufacturing is the company that casts and machines these blocks. And look at this. The same casting is used for a wedge and a Hemi. So it's cast with big ears here for the wedge motor mounts. But if this one's going to be built as a Hemi, then they machine that off. Now, either the Mopar print or Energy took it upon themselves to leave this 1/4 inch block of metal here sticking out here, so it would cause me nightmares in the future. But it's fixed now. But as you can see, I had to grind out about 200 thousandths. It was already fitting. I can't believe I had to take out 200 thousandths. But that's about what it is. And the reason for my rant here is if you have a Callie's block, and it may have been the same way on the World block, because all the World blocks I put together went in race cars, or we were using hooker headers, and hookers like I used on the mock-up, the pipe comes out totally different, and it probably because power steering, I think, might have been the issue here, why TTI went in so far. But the hookers may not clear power steering, and the TTIs might. And those TTIs are 2 1/4 tubes. I don't know if their 2 1/8 tube headers come out the same way or differently or what. But the reason for me going through all of this is if you have a Callie's block, and maybe a World block too, if it sticks up this far. And by the way, in a minute I'm going to go over there and show you a Mega block, how it's machined on the side. But if you do, and you want to put headers on your car, you just can't put those headers on your car. If you had to take this header on and off 21 times underneath that car, you'd be calling the suicide hotline before this was over. So just remember there's a problem here, and it's terrible. When I take this engine off the test stand, I'll dress that up and repaint it so you'll feel better. But that's the purpose of the video, is to tell you there's a big problem here, and I wish Energy would just mill that off of here. This is on the outside of the block. This is not a stressed area. We don't need... Oh, by the way, I sonic tested this to make sure I wasn't doing anything wrong. And just machine the thing down like you're going to see on the Mega block when I show that to you. There's no reason to leave this here to drive people absolutely crazy. This is a Mopar Mega block. This same casting is used, and they can, as a wedge or a Hemi, they can just machine it either way. So this one being machined as a Hemi, you can see where they machined off the wedge mounts. But look at how this is all smooth here. I don't know why Energy is leaving that rib up there. These things are already 100 pounds heavier than the Street Hemi block. everything is so thick, even places where you don't even need it. They need to machine that down, but they're not gonna. I don't think they care what I want. You know what I mean? So, but that's how it should look. That's the original Mega Block where they were using the same casting to make a wedge or a Hemi. But I've got a few more things to finish up on the test stand, and hopefully I'll be back soon with a video for the startup.